Of course, those on the left are screaming and jumping up and down and saying, look, it's a hurricane. It's climate change. No, it's hurricane season, actually. In 2005, there were 3 Category 5 hurricanes, by the way, in the Atlantic Basin. 3, including the most powerful storm ever recorded in the Atlantic Hurricane Basin, 2005. But look, yes, you have hurricanes in hurricane season. Some are bad. Some are worse than others. Andrew, 1992. Camille, 1969. And now Milton could be a monster. Looks like it. Gregory Wrightstone, author of A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity, is a geologist and the executive director of the CO2 Coalition. He joins me now to discuss more about this. Gregory, nice to have you back on the program.
Yeah, good to be back on. I wish it wasn't with this topic of a Category 5 hurricane it's taking dead aim at my home in Apollo Beach, Florida, just south of Tampa. But yeah, what we're finding is just like you say, the media right now is trying to do everything they can to link climate change to Hurricane Milton, and last week it was Hurricane Helene.
So Apollo Beach, I assume you've taken leave of Apollo Beach today. You're not there.
Yeah, we went. Apollo Beach of course, is on the Gulf, the western coast of Florida, just south of Tampa. We headed across. I'm calling you from CO2 Coalition South headquarters, our temporary war room here in Vero Beach, which is on the Atlantic seaboard. Now, bear in mind, people are fleeing here and heading south to Miami and South Point, but it's going to be a lot safer here. We're still going to get a Category 1 or so hurricane that should hit here, and that'll
All right, so
be
let's
sometime
dispel
tomorrow
some
morning.
myths, though. I mean, the idea that somehow hurricanes, I mean, to have the left tell it, hurricanes didn't even exist until Republicans, became politicians, right? I mean, they didn't even exist, and now they want to create Category 6 hurricanes because this one, look, we've had hurricanes with more than 200-mile-per-hour winds numerous times in American history, North American history for sure. You look at Andrew in 1992 or Camille in 1969. You look at some of these storms that did tremendous damage. This one could be up there. We'll see. But this is not unprecedented in any fashion, is it?
No, it isn't. And I'm kind of a science geek. Well, no, I'm not kind of a science geek. I am a science geek.
Yeah,
And I know you love it too.
I
But
do.
so I took a look at the Florida data and I looked at the best measure for long-term data for hurricanes is landfalling hurricanes. And the reason is uh, every single hurricane that made landfall in the United States, we can take that back to 1850. They're hard to miss. And so we know every single one that's made landfall. And we find that Florida, just like the rest of the United States, has seen a decrease. That's right, a decrease of landfalling hurricanes. And when we moved to the Tampa area here a few years ago, everybody talked, when they talked hurricanes came up, oh, it always goes around Tampa. Tampa never gets hit. We haven't had a hurricane here in 100 years. Well, and now we're about to get 2 back to back. But what's interesting here, it's storms of similar size to Milton that's heading our way hit Tampa Bay in 1848 and again in 1921. Of course, there weren't many people living here there. So these are unusual, but they're not unprecedented. They happen.
You
We
make a
weren't
great
driving
point,
it.
and I want to underline that just for a moment. You make a great point. You see, in 1960, there were 5 million people living in Florida. Now there's almost 30 million people. So when they say, oh, that's the most economically destructive storm, well, of course, you've concentrated homes and wealth on the Florida Peninsula. Of course, it's going to be more devastating financially. You put a lot of people there and a lot of wealth there. So when a hurricane comes in like it did, and the one in 1921, I've seen pictures, absolutely devastating storm, probably a Category 5, who knows, but an absolutely devastating storm. And when you hit a populated area, it's going to have more damage financially, of course, but they make it sound like it's unprecedented. Again, they twist the facts to fit a narrative, don't they?
It is, and thankfully, these events like this and the storm from Helene that went up and devastated Western Carolina, they're catastrophic and terrible. But thankfully, they're rare, but they're not unprecedented. That's what we have to emphasize. And again, I looked at the data. One of the other things they're telling us is that, oh well, they can't argue that hurricane numbers are increasing because they're not. So they argue that hurricane intensity is increasing. And I've looked at this several different ways. Uh, the Cyclone Energy Index we look at, Dr. Ryan Maui's really good. He shows no increase. In fact, I would argue a slight decline in intensity. And I look for Florida, intensity of major Florida hurricanes going back to 1900, and it's all over the map. There's definitely not been an increase in the intensity. And the other thing, Steve, is one of the most respected hurricane experts is Christopher Landsea, Landsea. What a great name for a hurricane
Yeah,
guy,
Landsea.
Land.
Very nice.
Almost as good as a geologist named Wrightstone. But
Correct.
we'll leave that for another day. Uh, but he said that he recognized maybe a 1% increase in intensity. Well, Steve, all right, let's say he's right. I don't think anybody's going to know the difference between 130 and 131 miles an hour if a hurricane hits. So they're trying to link everything they can uh, to climate change and man-made our emissions of CO2. And they're trying. The two words I've been using a lot is fear and control. They need to. They're trying to create this climate of fear in order to impose control over every aspect of your lives using climate change as the reason. They want to control. They say they're for choice. I'm in favor of choice. No, they're not. They want to take away your right to choose what kind of car to drive, how to heat your home, what temperature to heat and cool your home, how much water comes out of your shower, what kind of a stove. I could go on, we could go on for 30 minutes listing the things they want to regulate and control. And no, thank you. I won't have any of it. These are all solutions in search of a problem because there is no climate crisis. We
Yeah,
have a
there.
hurricane. It's
Yeah, we have a
hurricane season.
hurricane. They happen every year during what we call hurricane season. And right now, the rain is coming in heavy. I don't know if it's raining in Vero where you are, but also already the big storms are rolling in from Northport, Sarasota, Tampa, Clearwater. Big heavy storms coming in. The hurricane's still a couple hundred miles out, but it will come on shore today. We're told later this afternoon. I hope that your home does well. Hard to say. Because the storm has now been projected to move farther south. It's not going to be a direct hit on Tampa, but it's going to affect places like Sebring and Lake Wales, maybe Orlando. It's going to be a tough storm. I'll give you the last word here, Gregory.
Yeah. Again, I would say sleep well. There is no climate crisis, but for the people of Florida right now, they're not going to sleep very well tonight.
No.
This storm will make landfall about 2 a.m. It'll reach about here where I am about 4 a.m. with maybe Cat 2, probably Cat 1 winds. I'm told it gets pretty. So I've just ridden through my first two hurricanes in less than 2 weeks. Um,
It's going to be rowdy.
so yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll
Yeah.
see.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you on the backside, but please keep your head down. Be safe. I hope for the best for you and all the folks of Florida. It's going to be a tough storm. It's a storm. It's hurricane season. Gregory Wrightstone, always appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. So when we come back, we're going to discuss the hurricane and more and your financial future with Philip Patrick of Birch Gold. It's straight ahead here on the Steve Gruber Show.